Joining us for this first session on Thursday. My name is Daniel Canning. I'm a product marketing manager on the Microsoft 365 ecosystem team. So even though I have a marketing role, I have a little bit of a unique job in that I'm really focused on how we're extending the core platform of Microsoft 365. That's through all APIs, whether it's any of the online services or the core apps of Office. And within that role, I actually focus on regulated industries and how we can move the needle in regulated industries with Microsoft 365, and looking at what are scenarios that we can move that. So today we're going to talk about financial services and healthcare, some examples of those. And co-presenting today is Joshi. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Joshi Joseph. Thanks for joining with us today. I'm part of the core engineering team of Office 365. Over the last year, we have been looking into the regulatory industries, finance, especially for finance and other healthcare areas, and then trying to see how Office 365 can be adaptable or make it more usable for those industries. So that is where we are here today.
Thank you. So Microsoft 365, you'll see, a lot of sessions this week talking about it as a platform, that it goes beyond kind of just the core functionality that you would think about from an end user perspective as a secure, stable platform. That's what we want it to be, of course, it's paramount. But beyond there, there's ways to look at it to actually drive and satisfy industry scenarios. And of course, the landscape of teamwork is changing. That's included if you're in regulated industries, the number of teams that people are in, the types of teams that they're involved in are changing all the time. We have diverse workforces, not only being remote, but also multi-generational and different expectations for tools. And the power we have as Microsoft 365 as a platform is something that can derive that kind of new engagement that we have through investments in things like Teams, investment through adding our intelligence, and of course always making these extensible. The one thing that I think we think about from regulated industries is that there always requires some level of specialization because regulated industries always traditionally have some type of system of record, whether that's in healthcare, that's in EMR, whether maybe it's in manufacturing, specific regulated manufacturing, going to have an ERP system or some type of product lifecycle management tools. Maybe in legal, you have document management systems. So when we think about the way you can look at industry scenarios and the opportunity that exists there, is you have the continued advancement and investment that we're doing as a platform, and that is the momentum of the platform. Of course, then we're making everything in there extensible, and then you have this need for industry-specific solutions. So at the intersection of the momentum of our platforms for new collaboration tools, our platform investments as well, and then the need for specialization in industries, at the intersection of those are a new set of opportunities to build and deliver value for your clients. Of course, as we've talked about, Microsoft 365 is a platform. Underlying it, the substrate level is Microsoft Graph. We continue to evolve the Graph APIs all the time. We've made lots of announcements this week around that. But we also think about, you think about the past, if you were developing an app, you were always thinking about the power of apps within the four corners of what you're delivering, whether that was on a screen on a desktop, whether it was a mobile screen, whether it was in a browser. You always thought about what did your app do within those four corners. The way that we wanted you to think about it from an Office extensibility perspective is you can take the intelligence of your system of record, your system of insight, your system, and take that and actually spread it out to make it a system of engagement by taking signals from that and dropping it to where people are working. So that can be dropped into documents directly. It can be dropped into conversations, whether that's in Outlook or Teams. It can be dropped into pages in SharePoint. And then even as we move to Microsoft 365, it can take advantage of things like Timeline and Windows. So it's taking the power and intelligence of the apps that you're building and bring those signals out to where users are actually spending their time collaborating, reducing the chair swiveling, reducing the context switching of how people are doing work, and let them do their work as they're in their productivity tools and engage with other systems to do that. And then, of course, as part of how we do our platform development today, you can integrate with Office using standard web dev tools you know today. We've open sourced our Office UI fabric, so you can make that look just like part of Office. It runs great across platforms. You write an app today, an adaptive card, for example. It'll run on Mac. It'll run on iOS. It'll, of course, run on Windows. And so it's going across platform. And then we have distribution channels. Not only through app source, you can publish apps externally, but then also ways to distribute for internal use only through central deployment, and also even through in teams that have enterprise-only stores and apps. So modern distribution. So so that's just kind of setting up the conversation today, why we think there's opportunity there. To recap, it's that we have new opportunities at the intersection of our collaboration tools and industry scenarios. The other thing we'll spend a little bit of time talking about today, we talked about having systems of record, and of course pulling that into then that conversations. That's where a lot of sometimes the work is involved. And we have a partner with us today, Datica, will talk about, for example, how we can specifically do that with EMRs. How can we take EMR data, embed that directly into conversations and things like Teams? So we'll get into some details there. The other thing we'll show you today, we're going to actually show you some real demos of solutions that we've worked on with customers and that we're open sourcing. Bits that we can give you that you can walk away and hopefully use as a reference, not only for your internal customers or if you're an enterprise dev, or even taking out to clients if you're building either finished solutions or consulting. So we'll walk through some good demos on this today, actually show you some repos where you can pick up and run the stuff with your own, and talk a little bit about pulling in regulated, for example, in healthcare, EMR data directly into conversations and Teams. So we'll jump over to talking about financial services and keep going.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. So over the last 1 year, we have been working with the financial industries to understand about what are the key scenarios they are involved, especially from Microsoft products, and also try to understand how we can better utilize Microsoft product for their daily usage and daily activities. One example scenario what we have been working over the last few months is for the corporate lending scenario, where big banks work with their major clients to offer loan for that major clients. This process is actually involves many roles within the bank. For example, there will be credit analysts, risk managers, loan officers, there will be corporate legal compliance people. There are many people are involved in this loan processing. So when we started looking at that scenario, we think that it is important that, okay, there is a lot of collaboration happening. So how can we use Microsoft Office as a platform for this kind of scenarios? So that is why we started this engagement. And when we look at this, so as you can see, I just run through this, this slide. So mostly you can see there are many, many different steps in the process within a bank to offer a corporate lending process. So that involves many, many people in this scenario. So mainly there are existing business process there within the bank to handle this. But there is a lot of communication or collaboration, and the productivity tools have been involved when they start working in a day-to-day basis, right? So that is where we believe that Microsoft Office 365 can play a role. So I'm going to show maybe next 5 minutes example about how a bank can utilize Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Word extensibility model to help them become more productive. So let me go to my computer. So in this scenario, as I was mentioning, I'm going to think about a loan processing as a relationship manager who has a relationship with the client, goes to their system to understand the different opportunities. For example, we have a system for the scenario. I'm going to log into a website where we have the opportunities that has been created by the relationship manager. So he talks to the clients, he comes to this website or to their own existing systems, and he can see all the list of opportunities that are available. So in this case, I'm logged in as Robin. Robin is a relationship manager. When he comes here, she comes here into this site, she will see a list of opportunities that are available for her to process. So she can open one of the opportunities. This has all the information that is collected from the client. For example, what is the deal size, average revenue, information like that. And she can see the team members needed for this operation to be successful, like a credit analyst or a legal counsel or the relationship manager who should be part of their core team, right? Then she believes that, okay, the data is collected, team is ready, now can we start collaboration, right? So that is where we believe that Microsoft Teams will be a good the tool for them to use. When they come to Microsoft Teams, underneath what we are trying to do is that we are provisioning the teams for that specific scenario. We are creating a team for that opportunity. We are adding the team members to that opportunity. And also we are making sure that we upload all the files and other assets that are required for them to work together to that specific opportunity that is going to be in the teams. It's taking some time to connect. Underneath, we are using the Microsoft Graph API to provision the team in the team. Now it is loading the team. So once she logins into the team, she can see that the opportunity is created. There is a team is created for that specific opportunity, right? She can go and then see the team members have been added, right? All the team members with their roles, loan officers, risk assessment, like that. And then we go to the general tab. They will see an app there called, there is a tab called Proposal Manager. When they click on the Proposal Manager tab, they can see, she can see who are the people involved, where in the state they are, right? This is from a collaboration point of view. I may be talking to my customer, I may be collecting information, where in the state in the process I may be. Also, they can start collaborating and working on this. For example, in the case of a compliance, if I'm a compliance manager, I can create I go to this app here. I can create a set of checklists here, like proposal evaluation, loan structure, like that, right? So then I can change my state. For example, I'm working on this thing. I'm blocked, like that. So that way, I can configure. I'm talking in the language that the banking is needed within the context of Microsoft Teams. In addition to that, you can see the left-hand side, everything is configured based upon the requirement for the bank. This is customizable. You can customize. There are APIs that are exposed to make it customizable. And then there is another thing that we are doing is from a formal proposal point of view. So when I go to, most of the time, finally, ultimate result of this work is creating a big document that contains all the information that is collected from different interactions, right? And also the information that needs to be shared with the client. You can see the formal proposal here. You can see who are the people are involved. You can assign tasks to different sections of the document. Then you can go to the formal proposal document here. So what we are trying to do at this point in time, we are opening the Word document that everybody together working within the same context of Microsoft Teams. And we are also, in order to improve their productivity, we are providing some additional add-ins here. Office add-ins for proposal optimization. So when the add-in logs in, there are two add-ins going to be here. One is for the understanding the proposal creation process. Other one is for Smart Link. I'm going to explain that. So if I go to the proposal creation add-in, I can see in one place, when I'm start writing this document, all the documents that have been created within the teams, they all come together in one place. Then I can see the different sections of the document who is working on, and I can assign I can see the call reports have been created as part of the collaboration with the clients, like the call reports here, the documents that have been created. I can also see the sections of the document who is owning that sections. In addition to that, I can also assign tasks to the individuals. For example, I want a content from somebody else, for example, Carol. I'm going to select her name, update this information. Immediately what is going to happen is that there will be a notification will be sent, and information will be sent to her channels, and also an email will be sent to him. So that way, when an information is needed from anybody, I can do that within the context of the same tool. In addition to that, one of the important things that we learned from our interaction with the banking people is that there's a lot, even though I'm creating one document, there is a lot of information is managed in other documents. For example, this is a scenario where I want to get some content from a spreadsheet. So the master content is managed within the spreadsheet. I am linking that content from that spreadsheet into this document. So even though the document writing may take a few weeks, if the data within the spreadsheet changes, it will automatically be reflected within this tool. So you can see here the principal amount is coming from Excel spreadsheet. So that way, we are helping the people who are working with the document to streamline that process and also make sure that they can be better from their work point of view. So let me switch. This is mainly the capabilities that we are providing from this proposal manager. Everything exposed as API. It is underneath using Microsoft Graph APIs for provisioning the teams, sending the document, adding team members, and where we have 2 additional extensibility within the Word document and Excel to do the smart linking and the document extraction from the teams. So everything is exposed like that. Which is number 5? So if we are internally using the Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Teams, there is an Azure capability there. We have been hosting the site in the Azure. There is Active Directory, and Microsoft Graph is underneath the key API engine. We are exposing since we have been working with the financial industries, we have been building this as a business case for them. We have been working with many banks to provide this capability. You can see the details in the business case document there. Also, we have been exposing, we have been giving this software, whatever we have been writing as free in the GitHub. This is, even though you can think about the bank as one example, this scenario may be applicable to other industries too, right? So, and also it's a good learning for Microsoft extensibility platform. So this is a good place to look at the code and then use that.
Very good. Thank you, Joshi. Yeah, so that entire project that we showed, we're actually kind of actively working on running that with clients today and refining it as a way to kind of show those business users the value of the platform they have goes beyond kind of core Office functionality, but gives them a lot more potential. And we're taking that entire project as we evolve it and we work with it, and we're shipping it all to GitHub, so you can go out there and everything that we showed in there today, that provisioning of the teams, those add-ins for both Word and Excel, those are all within that project. And you can grab either components of that or the whole project and play with it. And if you have questions, just submit them up there. We have resources that can address questions actually within the repo. So I want to talk a little bit about healthcare and some scenarios that we're looking at in healthcare. There's a lot of change in healthcare, specifically around the way that teams are being formed to do work. There's some problems that are inherent in the way that there's more risk with the way that providers take on risk for patients. And we really look at Microsoft 365 as being able to solve a couple core areas around health team collaboration. One is being able to kind of streamline communication, collaboration functionality. The other one is to bring in insights from systems of record and to be able to have that interacting with how people work within the flow of their work. And then, of course, all of this is built on compliance and security of Microsoft 365. And this is more than just an academic exercise for us. We've actually, just like we've been doing in banking, we've been running actual pilots with customers in healthcare around scenarios like health team huddles. So process improvement huddles in healthcare, where huddles is common in healthcare, whether it's daily process improvement meetings, whether it's safety huddles where they're managing risk, whether it's shift change huddles. Today in healthcare, that's done really by handing off documents and not in a very collaborative way. but we're actually working on pilots where with extensibility, we can show that that can be done all within Microsoft Teams. Other ones are tumor boards, where instead of having emails or multiple meetings for people to get together and actually have all the clinical experts in one room to decide treatment patients for cancer. We're working with a university in Sweden around pancreatic cancer, and they're actually doing tumor board huddles within Teams. Process improvement huddles I mentioned. And then another one is actually just doing huddles around patient lists where they have high-risk patients, and they actually have what they call multidisciplinary team or interdisciplinary teams in healthcare, and they actually get together and look at a set of patients and collaborate. Now, of course, that's always going to be in the system of record. We're not trying to recreate that in Office or in Microsoft 365, but we can show how that can all be brought together. And like I said, this is something we're investing in heavily. This is not just an academic exercise for us. And so I want to show you just a quick compilation video that shows some of those exact scenarios that I just mentioned with some real customers.
Coordinating care in a workforce this massive is a big challenge.
With the increasing number of patients, you lose physical communication. Human interaction was missing today.
The biggest challenge right now is everyone is communicating in their own kind of unique way that puts people in a position where not everyone is on the same page.
One of the most exciting things we have done is the adoption of Office 365 across the trust, and in particularly Teams to improve the flow of information.
Doctors tend to make decisions around patients that they perhaps never have seen.
The whole idea was to bring the patient in our conference room, increasing communication.
It becomes so extremely important to work together.
The key aspect of care coordination is ensuring that everyone knows what is going on for the patient and what is the best treatment. Teams allows these clinicians to be communicating in a manner that allows for easy tracking and monitoring of different responses.
Because the platform is so easy and intuitive, we find a lot more collaboration taking place. This translates to giving clinicians the right information and the right tools, enabling those clinicians to spend more time with patients.
Office 365 was designed with HIPAA in mind to make sure that security is first and foremost. The Teams platform is directly connected with the electronic medical record system. So that allows for working with patient information in a secure fashion. What this does is takes down a lot of different barriers.
Health history, previous operations, lab results, which date examinations were done with the system. We would see all these parameters right in front of us on a screen. And it is a safe and secure system to use, making it easier for us as doctors to collaborate. My personal goal is to be a better doctor today compared to what I was yesterday. It is impossible to do it alone.
Microsoft gives us the tools, and I use them to empower my customers and clinicians.
Very good. So that is that's a video, that compilation of people we've actually been working with this year. As I mentioned, it was Karolinska University. There's a case study we published, I'll talk about this in a second, from Advocate Healthcare in Illinois, Advocate Aurora, Illinois, Wisconsin, where we're actually doing some of these real scenarios today where we're using Office extensibility, Microsoft extensibility, to light up real scenarios in their industry. And you can think about even the things we've announced this week, how some of those can be applicable as a part of the base platform. You think about some of those secure messaging type of scenarios we're releasing in the next couple of weeks, where you can do read receipts, where you can have priority messaging within Teams, or even the ability to have image annotation, and then with the ability of AMS to actually keep that image sitting within the client and not being downloaded to the operating system or that device. You can have a way where you can, with just our core capabilities, start to enable some of those industry scenarios. But on top of that, with extensibility, we can even go further. So let me show you just some of those. Where's that machine? So for example, as I mentioned, we just finished and we just published this case study actually yesterday with Advocate Aurora, where they are actually taking they have these IDTs. So every week they have a set of at-risk patients that they need to collaborate against. And today they were, looking at their EMR data for who these set of at-risk patients were. They were maybe adding it to a spreadsheet. They were picking up the yellow phone on their desk and having a weekly meeting. And we worked with them to actually take that patient data, drop it into Teams directly, and then they would hold that weekly meeting directly within Teams. So we took their patient list, dropped it into Teams, and they could use Teams to have that weekly call, collaborate on these set of patients. And this is so actually, first-party, basically microservice that we're running here within Teams, where they can look at, hey, who are their patients are at risk this week? Who are we collaborating on? Who do we go build a care plan on? Click and see the profile details. And this is data that's being pulled directly. Even in this example, this is real. We're actually pulling in data in a FHIR format coming from an EMR, dropping into Teams, letting them collaborate against that, even make notes against this. And this is what the type of system that they used. These are, of course, all fake records. But you could actually pull in, you can see real signals around these patients and allow that level of collaboration that doesn't exist within the system of record. And we're enabling that within Teams. And we'll talk in just a minute, kind of from a technical side, what does it mean to actually transform HL7 or FHIR data and drop that into Teams. The other one that I talked about briefly was huddles. So we've also worked with a very large provider in the state of Texas, and they hold process improvement huddles in healthcare every day. Any organization that has more than 2 people has to actually have process improvement huddles. And we worked with them on a piece of extensibility that has an app where they can track their daily metrics. Just apologize about that. Where they can track their daily metrics for. So this is a web app sitting within Teams, but this could as easily be a Power App. And they actually track every day what are the issues that they have as a team. And then on top of that, if they're away from their organization, they can actually have a bot where they can submit new ideas. So it's not just about tracking what issues they have. We've written a bot so they can actually track what are ways they can improve their process within their organization. And then more importantly, so then after they submit ideas, hey, I have an idea. This is all using Graph, our standard bot technology. And then that can actually drop directly over into a planner. So if I have an idea and I'm away from my desk for how we can do radiology better, I drops in a planner, and now when we have our next huddle meeting, all the ideas that are there. Because today they're doing this all on whiteboards with Post-it notes and those types of things, which is great, super low friction. We all know what it's like to do Scrum on a whiteboard. But the issue is in healthcare, if you come up with a great idea, maybe I'm in Orlando and I have a great idea for how I can improve radiology. If somebody's in Miami and we're part of the same health network, they don't get to see what are the ideas that are impactful. So by capturing this in Planner, we actually wrote some Azure functions to take, if an idea that they had in progress what was shareable, they would actually, they move it along, and if it actually being a shareable idea, excuse me, let me just scroll over. If it ended up being a shareable idea, we would actually take those and publish those to another team. So now you're doing some kind of micro knowledge management, and then on top of that, to kind of close out the full loop, the last one is Power BI. So then we're showing Power BI actually measuring the impact of those changes they're doing. Right, so think about that full loop and all the services we're using. So we're using Planner, we're using SharePoint to store this data. This is just directly reading against a SharePoint list that's sitting within their tenant. We have a bot to capture all those ideas. Full industry scenario, all without them going out to multiple tools to do that. They're all doing that within their work. And that same project we've also open sourced. So let me hop back to. Sorry, that's. So at the, I actually have some lists at the end I'll show you of actually the project that I also just showed you, that Health Team Huddle. we've open sourced that entire project. So everything from that bot to the web app to how you connect to Power BI to that SharePoint list, we've taken that entire project and open sourced that as well for you to pick up. So as we mentioned in regulated industries, especially like healthcare, a core part of the workload is actually pulling in industry data, like from the EMR, into Teams or into our platform. And so Mark's going to come up from Datica and is going to show us what that looks like in actually transforming and pulling in data in regulated industry format, whether that's in HL7 in this case, but it can be transformed into Fire and pulled into apps like the one I showed you that we had from Advocate. Mark.
Here's your clicker, All right. Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. As I'm getting warmed up here, where are the healthcare developers in the house? Who here works in healthcare development? Dan does. Well, you might find this interesting anyway, or if you're thinking about, for the work that you're doing in the space, getting into healthcare development, showing how easy it is to get into working within healthcare and Microsoft Teams. I work for Datica, which is a company which helps startups, large healthcare organizations, hospitals, life sciences companies be successful with healthcare in the cloud, where we help our customers with the challenges in healthcare around both compliance and data integration. I'm going to show you 2 quick demos, then we're going to take a look at the code of how we actually accomplish this. So the first thing I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull up my instance of Microsoft Teams here, is a notification. What's that? Oh, that's right. Thank you. One of the things that physicians commonly want to know about is if a patient that's under their care is admitted to the hospital. And today this is most commonly done through paging, or even here commonly in the United States, fax machines. And the way in which a notification is triggered in health data is through a data standard called HL7v2. But whenever I send this message across, we're going to give it a second here, we can see that we just triggered a notification in the Microsoft Teams that a patient of ours was admitted to the hospital in the group for our clinic or for a provider that we manage. We can see information about the patient name, their medical record number, their location, who they're assigned to in the hospital, and any other pertinent information about the patient I would need to know. But not only can I see that information, but I can take action on it as well using an adaptive card in Teams. So I could do something like get the patient summary, or I could even create a task in the EMR for the primary care provider. A second example of something that you might want to do is to be able to pull in some context about a patient on a team and be able to take some action on them as well. So one thing that we wrote was a bot using the bot builder framework provided by Microsoft. So we can invoke our Datica Health bot and we can ask it, what patients am I seeing today? And again, be able to take more action on them. So whenever I invoke that, it shows me all the patients I have. If I go over, it looks like my virtual machine shut down while I was off stage. So we'll pull it back up. We can see that this patient list mirrors the patient list that we have in the electronic medical record, that we're pulling that here exactly across stream. When I click on one of these patients, it generates another adaptive card for me to be able to take action on the patient, where I can do basic actions so I don't have to jump between this app and the electronic medical record in order to get the job done. So I could do something like order some things per protocol, like an X-ray, CT scan, et cetera, with some metadata about the order and send it across into the electronic medical record. So how is it done? So we use a tool called Mirth Connect to map data. And an adaptive card behind the scenes is just the JSON object, which you add some data to. So here you can see the adaptive card that we created for the admission notification we had, where we had a field for patient name, medical record number, and we pulled in data from that HL7 message into this field. So the patient name is in PID.5.2 into the field. Same thing with the bot builder. Where here you can see this is how in our bot builder framework that we created the adaptive card that when we queried our patient schedule, created that. All JavaScript, not really any high-level programming, very easy to grok. My team built the ADT demo in about a day, and this only took us a bit more time than that, and a lot of that was just learning some of the nuances around UX of the adaptive card system in Teams. So we're doing a lot of work in healthcare, and one of the ways we can help you if you need help in healthcare technology is by deploying our compliant managed integration stack into your Azure environment, or it's something that we can manage for you. And we power applications like the healthcare bot you just saw, admission and result notifications, and the Teams patient app, which connects to healthcare EMR systems using a health data format called FHIR, all things that we power on that compliant managed integration stack. And this is a diagram of the architecture, which we have Azure Resource Manager templates. Pretty soon you'll be able to download this directly from the Azure store. So it manages VPNs, Active Directory connections, all the virtual machines, and notably everything you need to do to succeed in this in a compliant industry. HIPAA, high trust, GDPR, everything you know to be able to be sure that healthcare organizations are going to let you connect to patient data, which they take very seriously. I mean, it's been great working on this over the last year. We gave a presentation last year seeing the progress that Microsoft has made and also the progress we've made as well. So if you're looking for help building applications in Teams or with any other application in the Microsoft ecosystem, talk to me after the show. I'd be happy to talk about how Datica and Microsoft can help you with data integration with Office 365.
Thanks, Mark. So, of course, the underlying investments that we make in the platform are very important as just how we look at compliance. As we invest in that as Microsoft, we look at that in kind of three core areas. That's looking at being able to assess, protect, and respond. And you can think about on this diagram, what are all those different areas where we are actually investing as part of Microsoft 365, whether it's in Compliance Manager, the Service Trust Portal, information protection, encryption, access control, e-discovery, auditing. All of that underlying power of the platform is brought to all of our services. So whether or not someone is using potentially, for example, some PHI type of information in Teams to be able to secure that. So with not only the access to that, being able to secure people, being able to copy and paste it out of there to another place. As I mentioned with EMS, to be able to protect if somebody takes an image within Teams, that actually doesn't go to the phone. It just stays within the platform and can be audited and tracked and have e-discovery against it, et cetera. So that's the important part if you think about regulated industries. We have a lot of investment we're doing, and we're talking about our investments all the time, including this week, but all this underlines your development. And that's really the power of thinking about the platform. The scenarios we're trying to light up here, as we mentioned, are ones where within the flow of where people are working, whether they're within Outlook, whether they're within Teams, whether they're within Excel, the example that Joshi gave with SmartLink, where you can have an Excel document that's hosted in SharePoint, you're updating it. You can have N number of Word documents that it's updating, or N number of spreadsheets updating a single document using extensibility. So you're really reducing the time that people have to go out to different places to do things. I'll just give you another example of a session that's later this afternoon at 2 is with like Kronos, for example, as a partner, being able to actually integrate in. They're very common in healthcare for managing time and also manufacturing, where you can interact with your schedule, take time off, find out where someone is on a shift floor, all doing that directly with never leaving Outlook or never leaving Teams. So we have partners that we're pulling into those same scenarios, reducing that context switching. I don't have to go to 5 different apps. Where was that app? Let me log in, copy, paste, send it. You're pulling that into a single place where people are working. And then, of course, looking at industry-specific scenarios where we can talk to the business decision makers about the value of the platform they're already paying for and investing in. We're already starting to work with partners in these regulated industries. If you're a partner, whether you're an SI or an ISV, and it's something that you want to pick up, we have channels to help promote you in that. We have early partners we're working with, people like Avanade, SADA, Slalom Consulting, who worked with us on the Aurora Advocate Project. We have early SIs that we're working on with these, and we'd love to, if you're a partner and that this is something that you want to get into, either whether it's in financial services or healthcare, we have ways to promote and tell your story. And then we have ISVs who are already building first-party integrations into those that they're taking as fixed code. The Datica demo talking about pulling in EMR data in a compliant way into Teams. Droppler is doing even more with the imaging, pulling in imaging data from radiology type of scenarios. No2 helping us do a fax machine replacement using Teams. And Kronos, as I mentioned, actually doing integration into staff management into Teams and Outlook. Those partners have already shipped solutions. These are people who already are shipping solutions today for these scenarios. If you're a partner and are interested in learning more or having your stories told, that's my job, is to help tell those stories. As we mentioned, some of these solutions we've already packaged up as reference solutions for developers to pick up and use on their own, whether it's internally in your organization or to commercialize. We've open sourced them. The proposal manager that Joshi mentioned, that's a repo that's up there. The health team huddle that I showed you, where we had the bot, planner, and Power BI, that's a completely open source project as well. You can take a look at that. You can go out to Better with Office and see stories of that, like the one we showed with that video, see real customers and partners who are shipping today, and you can take a look at those out there today. Visit us on the show floor if you want to learn more about Office extensibility, Microsoft 365 extensibility. And we have boot camps in your area. Geographically, we have a number of those all over the world led by MVPs. So no matter where you're at in the world, if you want to learn about the how-to, even like in a full day session that are free of charge, we have boot camps. Go ahead and take a look at and sign up for those boot camps. That's our session. We have a couple minutes left. I'm not sure if there's any Q&A that people want to walk up and ask out loud. Otherwise, you can come up and ask Q&A as well.
I got a quick question about this new conversation. It sounds like you're building line of business applications this way. The question I have for this more as a management side is, you do a proposal, let's say I'm a finance person or I'm a doctor. Do I have 1,000 spaces for my 1,000, 1,000 team rooms for my 1,000 proposals? If I'm a doctor, is it by patient? So how's that going to scale? And it seems like you're blurring the line between this is a group thing or an individual thing, and I'm thinking I could end up with so many teams that I can't even manage it anymore. So what's your strategy? Are these individual spaces that I have many patients in one for me, or is it 10 doctors per patient, and each doctor now has 1,000 teams? You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do. I'll answer that in a couple ways. Just one from the ones that we've seen in the real world today. For example, around these health team huddles, it's a team of people looking at more than one patient within a team, and that these are early ones we're looking at, but there are real life ones we're looking at where they're not doing. You could see we are in the early days of this, right? So I think you will see ones if maybe you're a smaller practice and maybe you have a team per patient, that kind of thing. But we haven't got there yet with a lot of the providers we're working on. It's more the most common scenarios we're seeing is I'm a group of clinicians. We have a set of patients or a set of workload where we're looking at in a specific week, and those are either coming in as either separate tabs or even something they can navigate. I can pop back to the app as well in that, but they're actually navigating their set of patients every week within the same app. So it's within the tabs. You're not even like blowing out multiple channels or multiple sets per patient. It's really just navigating that within a central app. I think that gets away a little bit from that conflict. But just for a perfect example, both these use cases, one with the Karolinska and one with Advocate Healthcare, they have about 30 practitioners that are looking at 50 different unique patients per week. And what's happening is that list is just being refreshed all within that same app. And then you can navigate the weeks in that scenario, so it's not blowing that out per channel. I'll let Joshi address it from the proposal side.
But I think from your point, if we look at from a financial organization, there are many opportunities will be there, right? So that may be a case we need to further explore and then see. One of the things we are looking at is that when an opportunity means, can we archive that opportunity? Can we learn from the opportunity so that we can, rather than creating again and again the same thing, maybe reuse from the existing thing. So we are looking into those kind of patterns to learn from that. But if there is too many opportunities, management is going to be exactly.
I think it is, though, I think we will learn and come up with better taxonomies by industry and scenarios, right? And have suggested taxonomies where it's, hey, if it's this type of industry in financial, maybe you should do different channels, right? Or these should be each individual teams. And I think as we grow in these industry scenarios, we can even publicize what we think are best practices as we see them in the real world. But it's a very good question. Well, we're out of time from